full of equality and hope. But dig a little deeper and that dream starts to fall apart. His vision may excite idealists, but for those who've seen socialism fail in the real world, it feels like déjà vu disguised as progress.
Years or so.
Wait.
Every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can hack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us.
Okay, first of all, fucking audio. These Republicans, they're gonna have to fucking. They're gonna have to find a way to cope about this. It's over. Take the L. Gracefully.
Hold up. Every day I wake up. Wake your ass up. The Breakfast Club.
Y'all finished or y'all done?
Policies.
Because he said it so much.
Yeah. Because it works, right? Like Hillary Clinton ran with like a 700-page policy platform. No one knew what it was. Donald Trump said ban Muslims, build a wall. People remember that stuff. So it was political genius to communicate with those kind of simple, popular appeals. Is he going to pull it all off? We will see. I mean, we know that he doesn't have the power to do everything on his own. Luckily, the governor is now an ally. Kathy, even though Schumer and others wouldn't back him, he did get the backing of the governor. I interviewed Tish James last night, the Attorney General. He's got the backing of some big figures in the state. Well, will that be enough? We will see. We will see whether the smile and the charm and the charisma and the people power will get Albany to do some of this stuff because he can't do it on his own. You're right.
Well, Governor Hochul already said she's not going to raise the taxes.
She said she's not going to raise taxes, but she also said she supports his plan for universal childcare. So at some point, the rubber's going to hit the road. How do you pay for it? It can only be through raising taxes on rich folks.
Can there be free bus service in New York City?
I mean, there could be anything you want. I mean, look,
realistically, could that happen?
I hate those comments. Can it be? Yes, you can tax the rich. Taxing is going to be okay. I understand people when people hear you're going to tax me, this means more money. Yeah, 100% means you're probably going to end up paying more money. At the same time, people who aren't as privileged as us to even have money in the first place will have the ability to fucking ride on buses to get to jobs. This is actually going to benefit those less fortunate. And if getting taxed a little bit more, getting taxed is an actual fucking problem, maybe there's something deep within you that you have to address. It's one of those things where it's like you started from the bottom, now you're here, but then you forgot about everybody else that you left behind the way, or you forgot what it was like to be at the bottom, and you don't even want to look back and say, hey, and reach out and lend out a helping hand. I love when people like to say, oh, well, stand up and, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I did it. Well, how about stop condemning, poking fun, and dehumanizing people who are in those positions and start teaching them how you did it. Start teaching how. Instead of always being so fucking negative. This will never get done. This won't get done. This won't get done. Realistically, taxing the rich will be able to pay for free buses. Realistically, you can have a government-funded a grocery store. You can do this. Will it work? Will it be popular? That's the choice. That's the question. He ran on these policies. New York loves him. So give New York what they want. If you're a politician in New York, it might benefit you to at least stand behind Mamdani with these plans. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it falls on the guy who ran on it. Period. Point blank. It's so stupid.
I live in a country where Donald Trump
I take a bus to
president.
school every day. I mean, that would be great. You're right.
I live in a country where the guy from Home Alone 2 is president, threatening to annex Greenland. And you tell me free buses are realistic. I think a lot of things are realistic if you put Democrats are always trying to lower the ambition. And Republicans are like, we'll do whatever the hell we want. We'll conquer countries. We'll bomb things. We'll do all sorts of insane things. And Democrats are like, oh, can we do this little bit for poor people or marginalized people or people who need help? And I just think, come on, New York, biggest city in the country, richest city in the country. You can't do this stuff? Yes, you can.
I want to see him do it.
I
do. I really do.
And by the way, if they block him, I mean, this is a man who will run again on this platform. I mean, FDR ran in the 1930s on the basis that, look, they hate me, the rich people, and I embrace their hatred. And I can very much see if he doesn't get things through and it's clear it's because of the opponents, he'll run on that again in a few years' time.
I want to ask about that. How does he navigate the government overreach that is absolutely going to happen from Donald Trump?
It's a good question. I asked Tish James the same question yesterday. I mean, all Democratic attorneys generals have been dealing with this issue in California, in Illinois. We know Donald Trump is now going to use his excuse to send in the troops.
Absolutely.
To cut funding. I mean, it's insane that he posted on his social site at the weekend, if you vote for Zohran Mamdani, if Zohran Mamdani wins, I will cut funding. Like, that is the classic
That
mob
is
boss.
crazy.
Just extortion. The country's biggest, richest city, the president of the United States says, I'm not going to send you any money if you don't vote for the guy I want. And by the way, the guy you wanted was Andrew Cuomo. So I just think look, I don't know if there's any solution to this stuff. I think it can't be Mamdani on his own, right? The whole point about Donald Trump is you can't beat him on his own. What he does is he goes after institutions and people one by one, like the bully in the playground, and takes them out one by one. The only way you beat Donald Trump is with solidarity, with people sticking together, not people throwing each other under the bus. Big universities, big tech companies, all trying to curry favor. I actually thought the best part of Zohran Mamdani's speech last night was when he went after Trump and made it very clear. He said the way you respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism is not with the appeasement they crave, but with the strength they fear. And he said you get rid of the conditions that create despots like Trump. You don't hear that enough from the Democratic Party. All you hear from Democrats is, we've got to get rid of Trump and back to business as usual. What Zohran Mamdani is saying, and Bernie and others have said, is you can't just get rid of Trump. You've got to get rid of the next Trump. And that means getting rid of the conditions that created Trump.
Can you vote out an authoritarian regime? Like, because I see everybody celebrating.
Yeah.
And I'm like, relax. The guy's still in power. I don't care
3
how
years minimum.
Yes, and I don't care how unpopular he is. He's got a lot of power, and he can
agree.
use that power to, get rid of a lot of the checks and balances that, still exist. Can you vote that out in 2026? In 2028?
I mean, that's the $64,000 question. It's something I've been worried about since 2018, 2019, when I said he's not going to leave after 2020, and he tried to stay on. Look, the guy is selling merch for 2028.
Word.
He's visiting world leaders. He takes them to a closet in the White House and he shows them 2028 merch. Schumer and Jeffries come to the Oval Office. He chucks the 2028 merch at them. He said the other day, I'm not going to run as vice president and do that again. But he never fully rules it out because, of course, he wants to stay in office. And I think that is the big question. Are we going to have free and fair elections in 2028? But the way to ensure that we do have 2028 free election, or at least try and ensure is to make sure they don't control every branch of government. And what last night's blue wave, and it was a blue wave, what that shows us is actually the Democrats are on a very good path in terms of winning back the House next year. If they don't win back the House next year, then I don't think we see the back of this guy. I just think there's nothing to stop him at all.
How should Democrats look at last night? And what I mean by that is, Jersey, you expect Jersey to go blue. Mayor race in New York City, you expect that to go blue. Prop 50 in California, that's the blue state, right? Virginia, you kind of expect that to go blue.
Margins were huge.
So how should they should this be something they look at and be like, okay, this is a step in the right direction for us?
It's 100% a step in the right direction, especially you look at the Virginia House, for example, which is seen as a bellwether. They won back a bunch of seats from the veto-proof majority there. Which so Trump took a beating in all these places, especially in Virginia, where he fired a bunch of federal workers, Doge, all of that. It had a huge impact. But look, it's across the board. It's in special elections in Georgia. It's the Prop 50 was a 2-to-1 vote. I think Gavin Newsom will be very pleased with that result. There was a statewide race in Georgia for which they won as well. You go through the list. In Maine, they rejected an attempt to limit early voting and all sorts of other voting methods. So it's really, really interesting that across the board they did well. The margins were big. I mean, Mikey Sherrill, it was looking very close in New Jersey just last week. She actually was a blowout, right? So I do think the margins are big. It does bode well for them going into next year. My bigger worry is not that they win the House. I hope they win the House. But then what do they do with that power? Like, I have no confidence in Hakeem Jeffries. I have no confidence in Chuck Schumer. I mean, Chuck Schumer was asked yesterday, who did you vote for in your city? And he could not say who he voted for.
Wow.
Like, disgraceful doesn't come close enough to it. You are the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, and you can't say that you voted for the Democratic candidate in New York. And by the way, you said New York goes,
And that's why I believe some of these Democrats, these senators, they need to be out of here. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, if he doesn't get his shit together, like, we need somebody to rally. And Chuck Schumer's not going to do that. If you can't tell the people that you voted for Mamdani, did you vote for Andrew Cuomo? Did you vote for the other guy? I mean, did you not vote at all? Like, I don't think you understand how powerful your word is, and silence is also just as dangerous as loud rhetoric. Like, what does it mean? Why? What? It's crazy.
is a Democratic city, but This guy was up against two candidates. He was up against a Republican and a famous Democrat with name recognition who was governor of the state.
Terrible candidates, though.
Terrible candidates.
Let's be honest. And I like Curtis as a person, but they terrible.
Agreed. He got lucky. You need luck in politics. Donald Trump got lucky in 2016. You could argue with Hillary Clinton. But the point is, they still outspent him. They still threw the kitchen sink at him. He still had all the billionaire support. He still had the Cuomo name. If you go back 9 months, we say terrible candidate, but he had the inevitability aura. It was Andrew Cuomo's race to lose. He was leading in the primaries. This was the guy who was supposed to just naturally get it because of his name and experience and money. He didn't. He got disgraced twice.
Let me ask, what does that mean for Democrats? Because it seems like when the Democrats had somebody, they split like Voltron, right? You had Eric Adams, now he's independent. You had Cuomo, now he's independent, but they're Democrats, but they all did this to go at Mamdani. So what does that mean for Democrats? Because Republicans, I don't think would ever do that. Even if they didn't like the candidate, they would still stand behind him.
I mean, Trump. It's a reminder that they keep nominating crappy Democrats. I mean, the fact that Eric Adams was the mayor, the fact that Andrew Cuomo was the governor tells you volumes about the New York Democratic Party and how awful it was. And I think Mamdani is a breath of fresh air. I was standing in that hall at Brooklyn Paramount last night, watching him speak, seeing the energy, the crowd, people crying, thinking to myself, this is the guy they chose to reject. This is the guy Chuck Schumer couldn't even say he voted for. This is the guy that, as you call him, Apak Shakur, couldn't turn up and actually, until like the Friday before the race, endorse him. What is wrong with these people? Do they not want to win? He won young men, 18 to 29, according to the NBC exit poll last night, by 40 points. To put that in context, Sherrill and Spanberger won young men by 10 and 14 points. Mamdani won by 40 points. I'm old enough to remember a year ago when Democrats were like, how do we get young men back? Do we need to go on podcasts? How do we get young men back? This guy's doing it. He's giving you a playbook. And they're like, no, we don't want the playbook. We don't want this guy. The entire party establishment rejecting him. To the very end, Hillary Clinton asked at the weekend, she's like, I don't know, I have a view. Like, none of them would come behind this guy with energy and charisma. So it's a real problem for the Democratic Party. If they decide to carry on, the classic circular firing squad where they're all just shooting each other. On Monday, Spanberger, the woman who just won the governor's race in Virginia, she was attacking Mamdani as dishonest. I'm like, what are you doing? You're both on the eve of major elections. Why are you attacking him? Like, is there not enough Republicans to attack? But that is classic Democratic Party.
I think I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw a poll last night that he won just young people, 18 to 29, by like 75%.
I'm sure, overall.
Number?
I didn't see the final number later, but on the male one is fascinating. He won women, of course, as well. But the male one's fascinating because all I was told by pundits was like, young men don't vote. They're all conservatives now. We were told that all young men are conservatives. We didn't see that last night. We were told Latinos, all conservative now. Last night, Democrats won back Latinos across the country. Guess what? Having a rogue fascist secret police in masks picking up brown people off the street doesn't help your poll ratings.
What do you say to the people that say, because a lot of older people feel like he doesn't have the experience, and that's what scares them. So what do you say to those individuals, and what is your thoughts on it?
I will repeat my position. The guy from Home Alone 2 is president of the United States with his finger on the nuclear button. If Donald Trump can be president of the United States, anyone can be anything in this country. He is like the reverse American dream. And I think, look, he's been in the State Assembly for a few years. He made a very good point in the campaign. He's like, look, my experience is not Andrew Cuomo's experience, but why would you want Andrew Cuomo's experience? I don't think people care about that stuff anymore. Look at Graham Plattner in Maine. Guy's an oyster fisherman, Marine veteran, had a Nazi tattoo on his chest, and he's filling out halls. People don't care. They want authenticity. They crave energy. They crave real people. They are fed up with the automatons and the robots and the corporate consultant-created candidates. They're done with it.
I want to go back to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer for a second. Zoran did give me hope that there are still free and fair elections, right? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, they're not going to let this happen.
I didn't think it was going to let him
I was like, they're not going to let this happen.
They're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Something's going to happen.
Yeah, I was worried about the same thing.
I'm like, right? But he gave me hope that there's still free and fair elections. And he also gave me hope that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer.
I know you're watching, so turn up the volume. New York City's new mayor takes aim at the president during his victory speech. Not only was Zoran Mamdani a political outsider ahead of the mayoral race, he flourished during a particularly nasty smear campaign. What does his win mean for Democrats and Republicans alike? You're watching Counterpoints with me, Melinda Nusafora.
Counterpoints.
The youngest in more than a century, the first Muslim and the first of South Asian descent. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani made a lot of history on Tuesday night. What's harder to quantify about this particular mayoral race, however, is if we've ever seen one quite so ugly. The smear campaigns and personal attacks were relentless and often came directly from the White House. And yet, Mamdani managed to turn it all into points of pride.
The conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this.
In reality, the office of mayor has limited power, and yet Mamdani's victory is being talked about as if it could reshape American politics. Some analysts argue it was a litmus test for President Trump and MAGA politics, and both were found wanting. Others say it could forge a new path for the Democrats. Coming up on Counterpoints, we'll ask how Zohran Mamdani overcame these negative campaigns and won. If the mayoral race was in part a referendum on President Trump, and can one man really revive the flagging fortunes of the left? Joining the discussion is Josh Hammer, Senior Editor-at-Large of Newsweek and host of The Josh Hammer Show.
Yes.
Stephen Burnell is back with us, a YouTuber and political commentator, also known online as Destiny. And rounding out our panel is Amani Al-Khataba, an author, activist and founder of MuslimGirl.com. Thanks for joining us here on Counterpoints. The election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York City has gained huge attention, and not just in the US, internationally as well. And part of that has to do with just how divisive and at times nasty this campaign was. Some of the commentary throughout the race framed Mamdani as a terrorist and a radical threat. He himself called it at times Islamophobic. Issues far from New York City, such as the Israel-Hamas war, were pulled into the conversation. But by and large, Mamdani stuck to his messaging on primarily the cost of living crisis and the rental market. Josh, let's start with you, because I know that you're not a Mamdani fan. Josh, why do you think he won? Despite this negative campaign that was run against him, how did he turn it around?
Well, look, I mean, Zohran Mamdani is the Democratic nominee, or he was a Democratic nominee for mayor in a city where roughly 66% of registered voters are Democrats. So one might make an argument that the mayoral race really was won in the Democratic primary. And part of the issue back then was that there was a fractured field. Andrew Cuomo, for what it's worth, even going back to the Democratic primary, and Cuomo, both in the primary and in the general, was Mamdani's leading opponent. Cuomo ran what can at best, let's call it kind of a mediocre campaign, a deeply uninspired campaign. This is someone who was a former governor of New York. His father, Mario Cuomo, was a governor back decades ago. He was attempting this later in life political comeback. His heart, frankly, never really seemed to be in it. He never came to terms with his handling of the COVID-19 crisis, never apologized for the whole nursing home scandal. So he ran a really awful campaign in both the primary and the general. The other element here is that Zohran Mamdani was backed by the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, who have, for better or for worse, I would argue for worse as conservative, but the DSA has a phenomenal turnout machine in terms of actually getting their activists to the polls, and that's very much what they did in New York City. There's a lot of number crunching that can be said about that as well. If you look at where Zohran Mamdani actually got his supporters, including on election day itself, a lot of them came from religiously unaffiliated voters, recent folks who moved to New York City in the past 5 years. He wins a shockingly high percentage of folks who just moved to New York City in the past 5 years. By contrast, you look at folks who were born in New York City, been there for decades. They actually, Cuomo actually got their support there. So you can start to see really how he carried this coalition. In some ways, kind of superficially resembles the 2008 Barack Obama coalition, but he won fair and square.
Amani, was it sealed in the primary? Is it just that Cuomo lost it rather than Mamdani won it?
I think Zohran Mamdani really won and earned every single vote that was cast for him. I think the difference is very obvious with the discrepancy in the polling numbers, but truly, I mean, we've seen the largest voter turnout in New York since the past 60 years. And he's the first mayoral candidate in 60 years to get over 1 million votes. So he surely led a platform that inspired people. And a study just came out this morning that actually one of the main policy positions that made him so tremendously popular was his position on Israel and Palestine. It was because of the fact that he is a public figure that is not afraid to say that our country, our states want to abide by international law. And this reflects the majority opinion of the majority of the American public right now. So it is no surprise whatsoever that he was able to inspire newcomers to come out to the polls,